And I've worked in France for a couple of years. So put it this way, I know when I can hear a French person speak, I can kind of pick up what they're saying. And she said to me, oh, I'm a translator. So when these French people who were sitting opposite us said something, I could understand them. I didn't need her to translate.
Yeah.
But she said, hang on a minute, let me translate that for you. Because not even asking us, do you speak French? She didn't even know that. She didn't even ask about if I'd worked in France that time and gone to that table.
I'd worked with a Canadian and spoke fluent Canadian.
Yeah. She just overruled the whole table and she said, let me just tell you what they said. And she said, oh, they want to know, can you...
Hello. I could eat about 1.5 million of these.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Welcome to the It's a Drama podcast.
Daddy, I love him.
My mother thanks you.
If you can't say something nice.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Hello and welcome to the It's a Drama podcast. I'm Liz.
I'm Brian.
And today we have got such an exciting show for you. Today we're going to be covering the wreck of our life. We're going to be talking about the fact that we are now empty nesters. Well, half empty nesters.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about how Brian's feeling. Shouldn't laugh when I say that because that's a serious subject. We're going to be talking about the fact that the editor, well, no, I'm compassionate.
Yeah.
The editor, the book that I'm writing, how the editor responded to my first 2 chapters. And we're going to be sharing with you the Paris story, the famous Paris story that from Paris that we talked about Bri sitting next to a woman at a restaurant, in Paris, and what happened.
Yeah.
So no, I'm just trying to keep it professional, Bri.
Okay.
That's what we're going to be talking about. We're here. There you go.
Yeah. I can say my
contents.
bits in a bit. Yes.
What?
I can say my bits in a bit.
Okay, let's just get the serious stuff out of the way now, Bri. How are you feeling?
Today?
Yes.
Oh, I'm feeling a lot more positive than what I was a few weeks back. Yeah.
Should we just give some context to someone who is new to the show?
If you've not watched it before, we did a podcast about struggling, which was just me and my mindset and the way I was feeling, just, losing that sort of spark, which is unusual for me. And it doesn't really happen that often. It has happened once before that I'm really quite aware of. Apart from just, you're feeling a bit crap today. It wasn't that. It was like, it was quite dark feelings and just about changing your mindset and just looking at things and just analysing things and talking about it. And not only that, a bunch of people then listen to the podcast and then reach out to you and say, thanks so much for what you've done because, I feel like that at times and I've been through that. And, you can be in quite a dark place. And some people even said, I couldn't even listen to your podcast because I'm feeling like that as it is.
So bad.
Yeah, I know. And you feel sorry for you feel sorry for people, don't you? It's like when they turn around and say, "I couldn't even listen to it. I just had to turn it off straight off."
Aww.
And I didn't want it to be that, and it wasn't that. I don't think that particular podcast was that depressing.
It definitely wasn't depressing.
It was just all we tried to achieve with it was just about talking about something and just talking it through your mind instead of your own mind, because your mind just plays tricks with you and answers what you don't really want to hear.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, is that when you actually then not only that, when you put yourself in front of a microphone, you can, I listen to the whole thing because I have to edit the thing. So you listen to it and you just think, sometimes you don't even think, who's that guy talking?
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually me. It's weird, and you end up listening to it and thinking, what's he going to say next? And it's like, because you can't remember what you said. It's weird when you do a podcast, doesn't it?
It is, Bri. It is.
You even met someone today who said, I probably know you better than you know yourself.
I know. Well, that's a scary thing, isn't
and
it?
It is.
Do you know the best little antidote for being having hang on, what am I trying to say? Hang on. That all came out
antidote.
wrong. The best way to have the best way to have a good memory is to tell the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a long-winded way of saying, when I met that guy and he said, I know you better than you know yourself. Yes. All I could think was, well, everything I've said is true. So don't start panicking, Liz, because I did have a little bit of a hot sweat, because you're thinking, oh my God, what have I said? And you think, well, no, everything I've said is true. So if he asks me a question, I can answer him.
Yeah. But the thing is they know, because you give them a little clip for an hour or two or whatever it is, and they analyze it and they can play it again and play it again. And when we've done our podcast, very rarely, really, do you ever listen to it again.
Oh,
So
I can't listen to
you haven't
my
got a clue
podcast.
what's going on.
No.
You know, I always feel sorry for people who have done films and I love that part you're in. And you go, yeah, I've done 6 other parts since that film,
Yeah.
and I haven't got a clue what the script even was, you know?
If you're new to the channel, by the way, I just want to say that because you might be here and you're thinking, oh, who is this that's, you know,
Rambling on.
what are you on about?
Yeah.
We're Liz and Brian, we're husband and wife, and we meet together. Well, obviously we don't just meet together for the
Every day.
podcast. We actually sleep in the same bed as well. But no, what I meant to
This
say.
podcast is actually from our bed.
Yeah. What I meant to say is that we discuss life, the dramas of life. We try and keep it very real, taking you through. We're both in our 50s. Brian's nearly in his 60s. And we're just sharing what life is like as a married couple. We work from home. We've started our own business. We love to travel the world. We've got 2 young adult kids that we talk about quite often that you'll hear about later on. And yeah, we just talk about life in general.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about having a little look on someone else's life, why, you know, that you find that so, I think the word is like reassuring when you listen to someone. I love listening to
Reassuring and relatable.
Yeah.
That's what we try. You try and be when you're actually talking something. This is our take on everything.
Yeah.
And hopefully some people go, oh, you think just like me, or I totally think the same. You know, we might be completely off the mark on some things, but that's our take.
Yeah,
That's
I
it,
don't
isn't
think
it?
you can be completely off the mark on things because
No.
at the end of the day, that is your opinion, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
So, and also, you know, especially if you're talking about your feelings and things like that,
Yeah,
it's just,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So going back to the feelings, feeling a lot better. You know, you still have little wobbly bits, but it's getting better. So that's great. And I just feel more positive. So things are moving in the right direction.
And I really think it helped talking about it on the podcast.
It did. It made a huge difference.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, and especially, you know, I had a friend, Randy and Dan, who did a podcast with you, a Zoom on YouTube the other day, and that's been released on YouTube. And that guy, you know, he sent me such a lovely message to say, I'm so glad that you did this because I feel similar like this at times, you know.
Yeah.
You just think thanks. But,
Yeah.
you know, thanks to those 2 guys for reaching out.
And well done to you. Well done to you for putting yourself
Yeah.
in front of the microphone and opening up like that, because we weren't comfortable at first, were we,
No.
about putting it out? But
Yeah.
actually, the feedback that we've had has just been incredible.
It
and
is.
it's just
It's been great because men don't say enough. They just and you should. You know, it's like it's just talk to anyone. You know, do a podcast yourself even sometimes.
I
Just
know.
get it out there.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you got anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think, you know, positive moving forward. That's
Yeah.
the way I'm feeling. So
But don't
it's
be
good.
like, you know,
No, I'm not putting it brushing it under the carpet, Liz. Far from
No.
it. You know, I'm aware of what happened, and you know, you're aware of those feelings when they come, and you know, they're sitting there on your shoulder and in your head, and as long as you're aware of them, you can then, you know, go, okay, I recognize that, and it's when you carry on regardless and just let it build and build and build, and then you get really, you know, pissed off, for want of a better word.
yeah.
You know, and then everyone around you gets pissed off because you're pissed off.
Do you know the biggest gift I think you can give someone is the gift of your ear, your attention, you know, just listening to them
Yeah.
and just saying, what is it you want to talk about? And after you released that podcast, a good friend of ours, Cliff Ravenscraft, reached out to you, didn't he?
He did,
and
yeah.
said, you know, do you want to talk? I'm here for you to talk. And you
Yeah.
had a 90-minute conversation with
Yeah,
him.
an hour and a half with Cliff.
Yeah.
It was just so, it was great because,
He's
know,
a professional coach.
he is.
We've talked about him before, but he reached out as a friend, and that I really saw a massive difference in you after that. And I
Yeah.
think that, along with your other comments from other guys that you got
Yeah.
on YouTube and your emails that you got, I just think I just really want to say thank you. You know, just thank you,
To all those people, yeah.
thank
yeah.
you to all those
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
It was. Big thanks to Cliff, yes. Yeah.
Anyway, Bri's all right. But the
Yes.
thing is, I've spent the week bawling my
It's-
eyes out.
Let's flip the coin to you,
Yes.
Liz. You can wear the
to
crown.
make it all about
Yeah.
me now. Look, my turn.
I'll get my tea, look.
Yeah, we are half empty nesters. As from Saturday, our little girl, our 18-year-old
last Saturday,
baby,
yeah.
has gone and moved to the capital city of New Zealand on her
Yeah.
own.
Yep.
And it's been I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's been flipping horrific. It's been It's horrific, a bit harsh, do you think? I don't
Horrific
think so.
is a little bit hard
it's
going,
not.
but it's
not.
I think it's been horrific
It's been
for you.
bloody
It's
horrific,
been
actually.
heart wrenching. It would be that's the word I think I would use.
Oh.
Because horrific would be something really horrendously bad, but it's heart wrenching and gut wrenching, and you feel horrible all the times because your daughter, she's only 18, and most people have gone to college and uni, but she hasn't. She's gone she's got a part in a theatre company, and now she's got to find a job as well to pay for her. She's got a few bits of saving, which she's been working in hospitality as serving coffees every day for the last 2 years, saving a bit of money, and her money's starting to dwindle pretty quick, isn't it?
And
she goes a rent, and I think that's the hardest part, is knowing that she's alone down there as such.
Now, every parent is listening to this knows exactly how I'm feeling. I know you do, because you'd be a weird parent if you just thought, well, it didn't bother me when they moved out,
Happiest day of my life.
Yeah.
Some people are like that, aren't
No,
they?
they say that though, Bri. That's what I'm trying to say. People do say that, and people have said that to me, and they're like, oh, I couldn't wait. But I tell you what, the minute that door closes and you sit down on the couch and you look over at a pair of shoes that they've left by accident, or the cushion that they always used to sit and hold while they were watching a video, it is absolutely, it's like you say, it's heart-wrenching. And it's just been, as much as we've known that she's been going since November. So that's been what, November, December, January, what are we now? Nearly February.
Yeah.
We've known all that time. And it's like, it's that horrible thing. Because as a parent, you've got to be strong. You can't just go, oh, I'm dreading you leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but that would just screw them up to buggery, wouldn't it? So you can't do that as much as you want to. And it's just been that horrible feeling of like, it's almost been not fake, but just, when something's coming to an end and you're trying to pretend it's not coming to an end and everything's normal, and like, oh yeah, we won't talk about the fact that in January you're not going to live here anymore and you're not going to be sitting down for dinner with us every night. And
yeah, but it's like when I mean, we notice it when we go back to visit family or something like that. So say in England, you go back and see them and you're there for say 6 days, and the first day you get there is great, second day is brilliant, and then the next 3 days is that transition because you're going, isn't it? That's what you're talking about. It's that feeling of, and then you just think, I should just go now actually, because realistically,
that's what she kept saying. Yeah. She just kept saying, I wish I would, as much as I'm loving being here and I just want to just be there. I just want to go. Anyway, so this has been like in the family, in the house. Her brother's still at home, Sonny. And like I say, it's been every single night I've tried to make it so special. We've just had lovely meals, haven't we? And just... lots of talking. Work's been pushed to a side. Thank you to all the people that have emailed me and I haven't replied to you, or I haven't got back to you, or I haven't kept my part of the bargain for a Zoom call with you, because literally the last few months, or definitely the last few weeks, everything's been shelved.
It has, because the amount of times you've been out with her, even just to go and choose something for her to take
buy some
with
shelves
her,
or...
That's it, buy a clothes rail, because it's an unfurnished flat that she's moving into, isn't it? And she's going from a small bedroom here in the house to a slightly bigger room, but it's trying to sort a bed out for her, and not only that, it's 500 kilometers away, so it's all that stuff, the logistics of everything. It's not been easy, is it?
We're a super, I mean, I'm sure everyone is, but we are a super close family.
Yeah, we are.
We sit down still 18 and 21, the kids, every night they sit down for dinner with us.
They're at home, yeah.
When they're at, obviously when they're at home. We're not, it's just, and we have big conversations every night. We're big talkers, our family. And so it's just been, we have been processing it every single night before leaving. I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, because actually I was thinking, do you know what? I just like to not even talk about this. And sometimes I think that we over talk things, like... Yeah,
but we've got...
Last night at the table with Sonny and everything, just talking about that.
Well, no, that just needed to be talked. No, it's just relationship with Tess, and that needed to be talked about. But you can see why we have people in our community that move to New Zealand, and you can see why some people, they just spring it on the parents, don't they? It's like, we're going to New Zealand. When you going? Next week.
Yeah.
literally like that, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
or 2 weeks. And it's like, how long have you known this? Oh, for 6 months. But why didn't you tell us? Because we just wanted to live normally with you.
Yeah. I've told you this before, so I know that people, but some people won't know this, but my mum, she is like my family and your family, Byron's family and my family, we are the complete opposites,
Yeah,
aren't
they are.
we?
Yeah,
Your
for sure.
family are very, like I'm talking about our mums and dads. Your family were very, or are very, I don't want to say loving because it's our family are loving, but
Yeah.
okay, I'll just tell you what my mum's like, and Brian's family are the opposite of this. My mum, if she would come and, like, for instance, come over and see you, and like, because we used to live in Bath,
Yes.
and she lived like in Newquay or something,
Yep.
in Cornwall, which was like 500 miles away, 350 miles away. Because we knew we were going to have to say goodbye in the morning, we'd be like, okay, we'll just wave you off in the morning and you go. I'd wake up and she'd gone.
Yep.
She'd have got up at 5 o'clock and she'd just gone. And she'd leave a note going, had a lovely time, see you next time. And I'd ring her up and I'd be like, why did you just go? And she's like, oh, Lizzie, I don't want to do it. I'm just not, I don't want to put you through that. Go and have a coffee with Brian and have a nice time. You don't want to be waiting, hanging around for me to leave. Yeah, but that's her opinion. And I used to really get annoyed with that. And I'd think, you know, that's just stupid. And why did you do that? But you can kind of see that mentality of,
Yeah.
why are we putting ourselves through this?
Yeah,
You
because
know?
it's cruel to be kind type thing, isn't it? It's like you get up and it's like you go to get your mum, say, oh, breakfast is ready, and she's gone. And you're
Yeah,
like,
well,
"Oh,
good, because she doesn't want to
yeah,
sit there
what am I
looking
going to
at
do with all
our...
them pancakes?
Yeah, but you know, Bri, she doesn't want to sit there going, oh, do you remember
Oh, I
when we
don't
used to
blame
do
her.
that?
Yeah.
This time next week, you'll be home, or, you know,
Yeah.
this time, oh, it's horrible. It's awful.
Yeah, it's like she said when she was
Uncomfortable.
over in England with her son, Jamie, and just before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And she said, you know, she'd booked a bus ride to the airport, and it was 12 hours away from getting up in the morning, like, you know. And she said, oh, she just wished she'd gone at 9 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
and not drag it out for
It's
that
only because
whole
she
day.
can't drive that she could
I know,
do that,
yeah,
because
yeah,
she was
yeah.
on her own that time. But anyway, so yeah, it's just, what was my point about telling you that? It was just, it's just been a long-winded, drawn-out thing. We have got such a treat for you next week, because next week you're going to listen to, or I hope you're going to listen.
You will be
Please
listening.
listen. Yes, you're going to listen to a very, very open, vulnerable, honest, candid, beautiful conversation between me and Tessa the day before she leaves to go to Wellington. And it was one of those times that I was wanting to do it, and I was wanting to do it. I wanted her to do this podcast. I wanted to get it down on tape, or whatever that thing's called that we record on.
Tape will do.
Yeah, tape. And it was like too emotional. I thought, oh, I can't do it. And I just thought, it was you that said, didn't you? Just do it, Liz. And it was the day before she leaves to go to Wellington. And I said to her, do you want to just come in and sit down and tell me how you're feeling? And she said, yeah, okay. And we do a podcast, and that podcast is going to be released next week. And you are going to be, oh, you're going to love it. It's absolutely love it. If you've got kids, teenage kids, or even grown up, you know, young adult kids, just listen to it, because what she tells me in that podcast, it floored me, to be honest. I'm not going to say
I
more.
haven't listened to it yet, because I haven't edited it up yet. So yeah.
So that was that. We went down on Saturday, took her down to Wellington, cried ever since. And I was fine when we were in Wellington, because it was all new and fresh, and her flat's
and you had
lovely.
lots to do with her. You had to sort the room out with
Yeah.
her, and you know, we get all the furniture in.
And then saying
Yeah.
goodbye, horrific. Oh, no, sorry, I'm not allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye, terrible. Doesn't quite have the same ring, does it? Yes. Saying goodbye, frigging horrific.
Yeah.
My stomach was wrenching. I got in the car. I was just like, oh my God, I can't leave her. It's awful. We drove away. And then we had this lovely Indian on the way home, didn't we, Brad? That cheered me up a
Yeah,
bit.
it did cheer me up a little bit. That was 9 o'clock at night, wasn't it? We didn't get home till 1 o'clock in the morning.
No. And then we come back to the house, and I was fine. And then I walked in next morning, woke up, walked into the hallway, saw her bedroom door, and that was it. Just started crying again.
Yeah.
And it's been like that for 2 days. But today, I must admit, I feel better.
Yeah, it doesn't help having she's not got a car down there. She's left her car here. It's a little BMW Mini, and it's parked outside our bedroom, not bedroom, our bathroom window. And you walk out and you see it, and you just think, oh, Tessa's home. And you think, and it's just, that's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna have to move the car.
Do you know what was really nice today? And then we'll move off this subject. But we've just been to Pack and Save to get our shopping, haven't we?
Yeah.
And Pack and Save is a supermarket in New Zealand. Cheapest one, obviously.
Yeah, we always go cheap.
Yeah, and I was in the aisle and I saw the farmer lady who lives over the road, Davina.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And I shouldn't call her farmer lady, but that's
Well,
I don't know why I said that. She's a lady who owns a farm.
She's our neighbour who's a farmer.
Yeah, it sounded funny. The farmer lady.
Yeah, not only that, I think she's a second Dan black belt as well.
Oh, is she?
I think so. Something like our first Dan black belt, yeah.
But my point is, she's very Kiwi and she's very
salt of the earth.
Yes, she's very. She's not this little weak flower of a lady. No. Like, you know, she just imagine she's a hardworking farm woman who owns a farm. Oh God, I'm digging myself in a ditch here, aren't I? I'm digging myself in a farm ditch. Anyway, I saw her in the aisle next to the dried herbs and spices.
I know. I did say hello, but walked past.
Yeah, and she said, "Oh, how's everything going?" And I said about what the kids were doing. I said, "Oh, Tessa's gone to Wellington," and her face, she just said, "How are you feeling?" And I thought, shall I do the old, "Oh, I'm fine," you know, "Oh, everything's fine." And I was tempted to do that because I thought, well, she's not going to want to listen to my sorrows and woes.
No.
And I just said, "Oh, pretty crap." And she went, "Oh, it's awful, isn't it?"
Yeah.
Oh, and I just wanted to hug her, you know, and I just said...
But she's got twins. She's got twin
she's
girls.
Got twin girls and a boy, yeah. And they're 23, 24.
Yeah, similar age to Sunny, aren't they?
And she just said, "You know what, Liz?" She said, "It just takes time." She said, "It really takes time." And I don't know, there was just something about the fact that this big, strong lady, woman, farmer, Kiwi... Yeah. She all of a sudden, it was like all that melted away, and she was just me and her, our eye contact, and she just her words, like, you know, it just takes time. And I just said, "You know what, Davina?" I said, "That means such a lot to me, what you've just said." It did. It meant more than...
That's great, because I mean, a lot of Kiwis don't. They're almost like, no, time for the kids to go. 18, off they go.
It just meant more to me than probably anything else, because it was just, if she's struggling, and I don't mean if you're a farmer and you don't struggle, but do you know what I mean? It's just like, she's always come over to me as being like you say, she's karate, black belt karate. She's just a strong woman, you know? Yeah. And I always just think, oh, it's just people like me that are struggling with things like this, but it's not. It's every parent. That's all I've got to say on it. Before I read my section of the book, because now we'll just go on and talk to you about, we're going to end this podcast with the Paris story that happened in Paris. But before I tell you about the book, I just wanted to say, again, thank you so much to everyone. It's mostly people on YouTube who listen to the audio podcast on YouTube who have just left gorgeous comments and so supportive about me reading my book on air like this, you know, reading it out loud. They're just like, "Oh, loving the book. Can't wait for it to come out on audio." We're going to have a big job on our hands when we do that, actually, Bri.
That's a big edit.
Yeah. But yeah, just really, really supportive. So I just wanted to give you a very quick update about the editor, because I know that I shared a podcast with you. It was called what was it called? The Harsh Realities, wasn't it? Or something
Yes,
about...
I think it was the Harsh Realities on an email or a podcast.
No, a podcast.
A podcast.
About when I told...
about the editor, wasn't it? Yes.
Oh, no, was it called A Bit Brutal or something like that? Anyway, it was, A Ruthless Response.
There we go. It was, yeah.
God, I'm just full of these brilliant titles, aren't I? These hard-hitting titles. We need to be more professional, Bri.
Yeah, we do.
Anyway, so I told you on that podcast about sending my manuscript, my first 2 chapters, and into an editor, and her ripping me apart and saying it was rubbish and don't even bother and don't give up your day job. Well, she didn't say that really, but you know. And then I went with another editor, and she is wonderful. And the reason I'm only going to go into this in a little bit of detail is because next week, it's all happening next week, but next week we're going to share something with you that is new and exciting, and something that we've been planning for a while, actually.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
We're not going to tell you what that is now, so you'll have to tune in next week.
That's going to be not next week, the week after next.
No, it's next week with Tessa's podcast.
Oh, with Tessa's
I'll be
podcast.
announcing it at the end of Tessa's podcast.
Right. Yeah.
And you'll just get to, everything will come to light, and everything will just make sense when I tell you next week what this new and exciting thing is.
Okay.
So, but that does include something about my book. Right. And So just to give you a very brief outline before we dive into the book, I sent my new editor the 2 chapters.
Yeah, the nice editor.
The nice editor.
Yeah.
She was absolutely lovely. She did loads and loads of edits. I mean, when someone says, I've never written a book before, so I have no idea, and I've never used an editor before, so I have no idea. But when they say, we're going to edit it, have you seen it? Did I show you what she's done?
I saw a few things. It's a bit like I used to get, because I was never great at English when I was at school, and it's a bit like when you take your English essay or comprehension into the teacher, and then it would just come back with 24 corrections.
Yeah.
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 And it would be like, okay.
To be honest, it was brilliant. But like I say, you'll find out more next week about how I felt about that. And that, it all will be revealed next week. But it's going well with the editor. That's all I'm going to say. She's editing the first 2 chapters, and I'm happy with her. There's been some things that we've talked about, but like I say, talk about that next week. So we're just going to jump right in now and share the chapter. So just to give you a backstory, if you've been listening along to these readings of this book that's going to be released in March, I hope, in late March. I'm saying that very tentatively. It may be April, but I'm hoping it's going to be late March. This is a book that I am writing about the stories of what happened when me and Brian and our 2 teenagers, aged 16 and 13, went backpacking around the world for a whole year. We did it on $75 US dollars a day. So we did lots and lots of roughing it and lots of sleeping on people's couches and just crappy Airbnbs and all the rest of it. And it's just this book is just the stories from each country of the hilarious things that happened on that trip. So what I'm doing is I'm reading out chapter 1, the very first chapter. And this is what I've been doing on the podcast. I've been reading it out loud. And we're halfway through chapter 1. We're up to I've introduced Brian. I've introduced the kids, Sonny and Tessa. I've introduced myself and told you why I wanted to travel the world and, do these things. And now this part of the story is how we actually came to decide to travel the world for a year. And now, introducing Liz's book that's going to be absolutely brilliant.
Take it away, Liz.
They say everyone can remember significant dates in their lives, don't they? Like when Kennedy was shot or when Elvis died. I don't know anyone who can't recall what they were doing when Diana climbed out of her Cinderella carriage and walked up the aisle to marry two-timing Charles. I remember the exact minute we decided to change our lives, to throw everything up in the air to travel the world. Me, Brian and the kids, for a whole year. We were camping at Blue Lake in Rotorua on the North Island of New Zealand and had spent the day at Kerosene Creek, a popular tourist spot with gorgeous free hot pools. On our way back to the car, we got chatting with a bunch of young backpackers. They were buzzing with energy and youthfulness and began sharing the places they'd been to and all the adventures that lay ahead. They were so incredibly carefree and joyful, as is the case when you're 20 and think your tummy will always be flat and you'll never get tonsil stones or piles. Their zest for life and adventure was infectious. That night, outside the tent, feeling warm and relaxed, Brian and I drank wine and chatted about our day. We reflected on our earlier conversation with the backpackers and agreed that their enthusiasm was magnetic. As the wine loosened our tongues, we began to fantasize about what it would be like to travel the world with the kids. Where we would go, what would we do, how long would we go for, how much money would we need? This wasn't a new topic of conversation for us. When Sonny and Tessa were babies, Brian and I would repeatedly talk about how one day we would take them around the world with us, show them different things, see the world through their eyes. But as the years passed, those conversations grew less and less frequent, and gradually the dream just fizzled out. Went away with the weight of heavy mortgages, formal education and businesses that required both partners to babysit for 11 months and 20 days of the year. But that night at the campsite, it was different. Our old conversation was born again, pulled up from the weeds, raised out of the ashes. And rather than see blockages and obstacles and no's, we saw only possibilities and potentials. And why the hell not? I'll never forget how I felt that night. It was magical, freeing, exciting. The wine and the words just never ceased to flow. And I remember looking up at the stars and just wishing that I could bottle that positivity and just keep it forever. The next morning I expected to get up and find the itch gone, to feel embarrassed and rather sore. We've all been there, haven't we? When what seems like the best idea ever at 11:30 at night seems ridiculous and absurd at 9:10 in the morning. Nights like that are usually followed by mornings where you say, we really need to cut down on the amount we're drinking. I think we're alkies. Let's only drink wine at the weekend from now on, shall we? But this wasn't one of those mornings. Rather than being brought to our senses by the sunshine, we were more eager and determined. The itch hadn't gone away. It was still there, bigger and ticklier than before. And yes, it's true. I'll admit we were slightly hungover, but who cares? We were on our holiday. And anyway, everyone knows that red wine is good for unblocking the arteries. For the remainder of our stay, we talked of nothing else. The dream had reawakened. We were going to travel the world with our kids for a year. The plan started to hatch. We put our heads together like a couple of lovebirds and thought long and hard about the possibility of doing the thing that we would remember forever. Taking a year out of our lives to travel the world with our kids. 8 days later. I hate it when holidays come to an end. It's rubbish.
It's amazing when you actually look back at it and you think, because it's 5 years ago now, isn't it? When we started out on that adventure, and it's so good to be able to hear it again, because it just sparks all those feelings.
To bring back memories, Bri.
Yeah, it does. Of where we were and how we got to where we are now.
Yeah.
It's just like that was the very start of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Little campsite in Blue Lake.
Do you know, just dealing with it. This is the other thing I meant to say and I never said it. I've been writing this book now for 2 years. Can you believe that? I met a guy today, just go off on a tangent a minute. I met a guy today from New Zealand Stories, and he wanted to just meet me and just say hi, and he promotes New Zealand. And he's
around the world.
He's promoting New Zealand on the world stage,
yeah.
And that's another story, and he said to me, and I know for a fact that he's written 4 or 5 books, I think he's written. And I said, how long did it take you to write your book? And he said, 4 months.
A morning.
Hey?
A morning.
No, 4 months, Bri.
Yeah,
it's
that's
taken
quick.
me and he did 80,000 words. It's taken me 2 years to write 50,000 words.
Yeah.
It's a long time, isn't it?
It is, but you have been doing other things, Liz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of other things.
Anyway, what I was saying is, going back to the empty nest test thing, I've been writing this book for 2 years, and this book is set 5 years ago when Tessa was 13 years old, and we went travelling around the world for the year.
Yeah.
And every day when I sit down to write this, writers who are out there listening to this will understand this. When you're writing, it's like stepping into a magic wardrobe. It really is. You just open it and you leave behind your house and Brian and our life here now, and and you step back into India. And she's 13, and
the sounds start. Yeah.
Oh well, don't cry, Liz.
No, don't start that because
no, I won't.
Yeah,
I won't. But yeah, it's been. I don't know if that's been healthy. I just don't know if that has been good, because she's 18 and she's leaving, and it's like she's not 13 anymore. We're not.
I know, but it's like you're in a time capsule or something, and you keep going back. To those days. Is a bit like About Time, isn't it? That film with the dad and everything, and the son they go into like a wardrobe and think of something. They go back to that particular time, and you'd kind of keep going back to the good bit all the time, wouldn't you? Like,
and it was really funny because when she was here, oh God, you honestly, I'm going to change the name of this podcast. And I'm just going to call it "It's a Crying Podcast." It's a crying shame.
It's a crying shame, innit?
Oh, Liz. Okay, so
Okay.
well, at least you know. At least you know how this is what I'm teetering on at the moment.
I know.
And it's been like it for a while, I'll admit. But yeah, I don't think, I've been here, like I say, and I was writing, and then I'd go out and she'd be saying things like, oh, I can't wait to go clubbing in Wellington, or, I can't wait to go to a bar in Wellington. And it takes you a minute to go, oh, she's not that 13-year-old little girl anymore.
Yeah.
She's this, and she doesn't come up. I mean, she does still come up and put her arms around you. That's not true. But, just, I don't know, back then when they're that young and you're still writing about it, it's just, they're different. She's different. Of course she is. She's 5 years older. She's different, and I was different to her back then. And it's just been a really, really interesting journey. And it's just come, oh, that's the dog wagging her tail. And it's just come at a time when, the end of the book is coming. It's going to be released in March. And ironically, she's moved out, it's just, I don't know. It's almost like that's the end of that chapter. And that's it,
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah. It's just, yeah.
Well, yeah, it is the end of that chapter, but it's like you say, you've still got to go back in and edit for the next month or so.
I know, but writing it was the hard part. Right, editing is easy.
It is, isn't it?
Editing is just take that word out, change that word. Just
describe a bit more on this.
I've done the emotional part of it. I've written what it was like, to be with her when she didn't want to go and stay in that house in Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
I've written about how she, all these stories, like she was just so embarrassed about me going and doing this yoga class in India. She was dying of embarrassment.
She was embarrassed all the time.
Well, she did. She just did the whole trip was just a massive embarrassment for her. It's like, oh my God. Yeah. And we thought we were being so cool. We were like, oh yeah, they're going to look back at this and say, look at my parents. They took us around the world.
They're probably knocking on, I don't know, 300 nights we all slept in the same room.
Oh, 365. One night we didn't. It wasn't one night we didn't.
Occasionally have the other room.
Oh,
but
right.
Not very often, was it?
Yeah. Anyway, so staying on the travel-y thing, let's just end this podcast before I start blubbing my eyes out.
Yeah.
Let's just end this podcast with the Paris story. So, again, if you're new, if you're coming to this and think, we did a podcast called Family Time, Peace or Pressure, and it was about our Christmas, what our Christmas had been like. It's only a couple of episodes back, so you can go back and listen to that. And we touched on what it was like. Brian bought me some perfume and he bought it me because we'd been to stay with someone in Paris on our travels 6 months ago. We went to stay with this French director and she smelt beautiful. And I said to Brian, I really want her perfume.
Yeah.
And then we went back to see her again. And Brian had horrific diarrhea because she poisoned him.
She didn't poison
She
me.
did.
Well, actually, it wasn't her who did it. It was just, I just think it was, I don't know, we'd been traveling a long time and, you turn around to someone and you say you're gluten free. And for some unknown reason, they cook you the most weirdest food in the world.
She poisoned you.
Yeah, it wasn't poison.
She gave you that really fruity, figgy tart.
I think it was just lots of figs and coconut and almond powder and everything else.
After you've had a baby and you get constipated, well, you don't know this.
Just have a piece of that.
Well, no, that's what they say. They say, just sit there and just eat figs all day.
Yeah.
And you will never have to worry about being constipated after you've had a baby. Yeah. So what I'm saying...
It's a drama podcast you brought to you.
What?
Brought to you by what are we sponsoring today? The figgy paste.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why. Anyway, so Brian had this horrific constipation. No, not constipation. The opposite. Brian was in the bedroom. Oh, this is just horrific. I feel sick. I can't leave the toilet. Blah blah blah. And when he gave me the perfume, sorry, Brian, it's true. When he gave me the perfume...
It smelled like a toilet.
No. All I could think was, oh, I don't like this. It reminds me of that woman, that night when Brian had that really bad diarrhea.
Yeah.
And so we told that story on the podcast called Family Time, Peace or Pressure. And we went on to say, and there was another part of that story, and if you want to hear it, email us. And 2 people emailed us.
That's enough to make a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Cliff and Madison, here you go. Here is the story of Paris. So we were around this big table, this big
Farmhouse
French
table.
oak farmhouse table. And it was an Airbnb where the host was cooking for us. It was something, it was quite cheap, wasn't it? 50 euros. And they were
€25 each,
yeah.
included wine and like a 4-course meal, wasn't it? Yeah.
And normally when you have, this is quite common when you're traveling through France, it's quite a common thing for a host to do.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're out in the country and there's no other restaurants and stuff, or you just want to eat some nice home cooked
And
French
it was
food.
in the middle of nowhere.
It was beautiful.
Not far from Paris or wherever it was.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. But when we turned up, when you go, you always expect there's going to be other guests there. You know, it's never just going to be you.
Yeah.
And we turned up, me and Bri, we're English, if you haven't guessed.
Yeah.
And
so but you have to set the scene, don't you? You're sitting there at the table where, like you say, we're English. The hosts, the husband who's doing all the food, can just about speak English. He struggles, but he's totally, you can converse with him. She is pretty damn fluent. And
the director who owns that, she's French.
Yes,
she wears a short bomber jacket, fur coat. She wears red reading glasses, but they're up on top of her head. And she's got beautiful streaked grey, black hair, just punky, like short.
Yeah.
She's just got loads of that big, lovely, long black eyeliner on, that French gorgeous women wear.
Yeah.
And she's just gorgeous. So even if she did poison Bri, and smelling of this lovely perfume that doesn't smell of diarrhea. And so her and her husband.
Yeah. And opposite.
I'm just about to say, go on then, you say it.
You say it.
No, go on, you say
fine.
it. No, go on, you say it.
Well, opposite were a French couple.
Yes.
Who could not speak a word of English.
Right.
Okay, carry on.
So opposite, and also there's these other guests were a French couple that couldn't speak English. And then they were there. And so we turned up and we thought, okay, it's us, me and Brian, the couple who run it, and the French couple.
This is going to be tricky.
Why?
Because they couldn't speak. It's amazing though. They could speak a bit of English.
I can speak a little bit of French.
I know, but they could speak a bit of English as well. But
Who?
the couple opposite us, all of a sudden, he started speaking English. Well, that's what you learnt at school, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. You'd be surprised. When these people say, oh, no, speak English. No, you speak English.
Yeah, you can.
Of course they can.
Yeah.
They know.
Understood every word we said.
Thing about a thing,
It's just they were being French.
Yeah. It's a great thing. I've told you this before, that if you go, and I used to do this all the time when I worked in France, you go and wait on tables, go and serve an English family and pretend that you're French, just so you can hear them saying, she's a bit stuck up, isn't she? Why? Just go and ask for the other waitress.
She knows what I'm saying.
Yeah. Ask her this, ask her that. And then, so you can just pretend that you don't speak English. So that's quite a good thing to do. But yeah, so we're sitting here having this meal, and then late to the table walks in this lady with long blonde, was it like long?
It was blonde hair, yes.
Blondie sort of grey hair. Yeah. And just...
Sort of grey hair.
No, well, I don't wish, it was like, I don't want to be insulting, that's the thing. But
You're just saying that she's just slightly older than me.
What?
Just slightly older than me.
Yeah, and not as dyed hair as me. Pretend that my hair isn't dyed, that's what the colour of hair was. And she walked in, she was from California.
Yes.
And she was a friend of, because you know what directors are like. These theatre people, they all know each other.
All arty, lovey-doveys.
They are all arty, and it's beautiful. It's lovely to witness. And she walked in, and the lady who owns the Airbnb said, oh, this is, and she said her name. What was her name? I don't know.
Let's Sherelle or something. I don't know.
Let's say her name was Sherelle, yeah. Oh, this is Sherelle. She is from America, and she will be joining us for dinner tonight. That's how she said it.
Yeah, that's just like it was.
Well, it was.
It was.
And Sherelle, she's about 6'5", long blonde hair. She was, Brian. Yeah. She's very, very beautiful. Very beautiful. And she's from California, so everyone's beautiful from there. And she was wearing like this. She'd just come off the flight from America, and she still looked gorgeous. And she's wearing this like poncho-y thing, like, like flowy poncho, lots of silver bangles, big rings.
Do you know what she reminded me of?
Who?
What was that? Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, Norma Desmond.
Yeah, but with.
Well, she was about 90.
Well, no, she wasn't.
She was.
She wasn't
decrepit.
That old. No, she wasn't decrepit. She was just in her 60s. That's all.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
We saw that show when we were 20.
Poor old Elaine Page. Wouldn't be happy that you're saying she was 90.
Anyway, in walks this American goddess. And she's introduced to the table. Bonjour, bonsoir, bonsoir. Yes, we'll sit down and we're all going to eat. And she made an absolute beeline for Brian.
The young whippersnapper in the corner.
Yes.
She did.
And I'm going to say, Bri, and I don't care, don't get me wrong, because I'm not a jealous person.
Yeah.
But you've got to admit, you were like kind of flirting with her, weren't you, Bri?
Well, I like to be nice to people.
No, but you were just like, oh, hello. And, like he said hello.
I think what it
so
was
that's obviously
is
flirting.
I think what it was is we'd just done 6 weeks in Italy, not met one English-speaking person there, and then another week getting back to where we were traveling. So you've had like 7 weeks without having a conversation. I think that's why I felt it was just like, oh, I can talk to someone and they can hear me, they can understand me without.
So she was sitting at the end of the oak table. Brian was
right.
to your right, and so Brian was sitting at the end, and then I was sitting next to Brian, and then and I just kept hearing Brian saying, "Oh, so what
brings you here?"
Yeah, what brings you here?
Yeah.
And first thing, the flag that gave me a little bit of a warning. The thing is, Bri, you've always said this about me, and it's very true. So you should never forget this. I'm a very good judge of character. When I meet someone, I think I know straight away. I'm like, you're either dodgy or you're not dodgy. Yeah. And I'm thinking, and I know, I thought, okay, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. But as soon as I heard her say, well, two things. Let me tell you the two things that she said that put the flags up for me. She said, I left my daughter, and I'm going to try and do my American accent.
Are you married?
No, she didn't. Are you single? What's that smell? Yeah. I've got something I can help with that. She said, I left my daughter in America. And she goes, but why the hell? I'm coming over here to start a new life. And I thought, oh, that's a bit harsh. I don't like people who talk about their daughters like that.
At her age, she came over just on a holiday visa as well.
She's got no visas.
Yeah.
She's come over here to start a new life. This is what
is
what I can hear, Wig. Yeah. Gathering from what your conversation was. To live in Europe, to start a new life.
Yeah.
And we said, oh, what are you going to do? She went, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do whatever I'm called to do. I thought, well, that's a bit weird. Isn't it, Brian? You've got to at least have some sort of plan,
But, she would quite, I said, so what? Do you have like a trade or something? I have all these social media accounts. I'm on this, and this, and I'm like,
started getting her phone out, didn't she?
And it's just like, what are you on? And I'm like, I'm nothing. I don't do any social media.
But, and this is the clincher.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say stupidly because that's not a very nice thing to say.
No.
You very kindly, because you were a very nice person like that.
Sounds like jealousy to me.
No, you kindly gave her your WhatsApp number, didn't you, Bri? You said, I'm not on social media.
Yeah.
Lovely lady.
Apart from WhatsApp and LinkedIn.
Well, you can find me on YouTube. I'm often on YouTube, yeah. Spilling the beans. But I'm not on. Here's my WhatsApp number, you said. And she said, oh, that would be lovely. I want to connect with you. And
because there's me thinking innocently she'd be an interesting person to even have on the podcast.
She was very interesting.
She was like, I think she was about 65 or something like that, and she'd
very brave.
She didn't want to live in America anymore. She didn't like the political side of things over there, and she was wanting to live in she wanted to actually live in Paris, didn't she? And she was staying. She was a friend of the directors, and she was letting her stay for free for a few nights just to get on her feet. But and she was saying things like, oh, I'm a model. I do modelling and stuff like that. And it's just like,
Well, and this is what I'm saying. She was about 6'8". I mean, she was literally, she could tap you on the head. You were that small compared to her.
Yeah.
She was towering above you at the end of that table, but it was like a giant.
Well, I had to have cushions on the seat.
I know, just lift you up a little bit so you could hear what she was saying.
So I could eye contact her. Thanks, Liz.
No, but listen. And then that's the first flag. So she said that. And then the second flag, she said, well, actually, do you know
why
what
are you sitting on them cushions?
Yeah. You know what the second flag was for me, Bri?
I don't know. Go on.
She said, I'm a translator. She said, I'm not going to have, she was just, and I don't know if this is an American thing or not, but she was like, really, I'm going to have no problem living here and getting work.
Yeah, her mindset was bang on,
her
I
mindset
suppose.
was.
Yeah, it was.
But I don't know, is that I don't know.
It's not the British way. That's what you're trying to say. Because you don't normally up yourself too much because you're like, you don't want to be brought down in a bang or something.
There's nothing wrong with being positive. And I 100% agree. It's great to be positive and it's great to say, but a little tiny bit of, well, you've only just met these people.
Yeah.
She's just literally just met us. We haven't even had our first course yet.
Yeah.
And already she's telling us, I'm going to do what I'm going to come. I haven't got a visa.
Yeah.
I don't care about leaving my daughter. That doesn't bother me. I just walked away from America. I'm going to come here and I'm going to just do whatever it takes. And she's already, before the first course is out, asking you, have you got any social media accounts that I can follow you on and you can follow me on? I don't know. It just seemed a little bit forward. And I know what you mean about Americans.
But I think the other side of it as well is like, I never really got to tell her what we did.
Oh, she didn't want to know about that.
And it's just like, it was just like, bump, this is what I'm doing and this is my story and this is how and it's just like, okay, I'm happy to, give her more than, you couldn't even contemplate the 4-second rule. It had to be like a 50-second rule, before you even butted in.
What's the 4-second rule?
Well, give them 4 seconds to explain themselves, before you butt in.
Brian, that isn't the 4-second rule. It's not give them 4 seconds to explain themselves. They haven't literally got 4 seconds. Like,
no,
how are you?
No,
1,
I've got
2,
4. I've got 4 seconds before I can butt in.
No.
No, but that's it.
You don't.
Just skimming over it.
Right, the 4-second rule is when someone finishes talking and they take a pause, then you wait 4 seconds, not 4 seconds from the minute they start talking.
Before I can butt in.
I'm going to call this podcast 4-second rule.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so no, you didn't get any 4-second rule there.
No.
And the third thing, the flag. For a start, she took far too much of that pork thing. Did you see how much she took? She hardly left any for me and you. She said, I know she was hungry. She's just on a flight from America.
Yeah, we liked it. Yeah, we put like a little spoon each on our plate and thinking it'll come round again. Well, it never got past.
I know.
Yeah, the poor French people not a thing.
No, she literally was just spooning all that meat on her plate, and I just thought that's greedy.
Yeah.
You should be.
You shouldn't be that tall.
No, you shouldn't be that big if you don't want to. You shouldn't have such long legs, lovely long legs. And then the fourth thing, or the fifth, I can't remember what it is. And this is the biggest thing that I thought, you're not who you say. I don't know. There's something quite fishy going on here. I'm not quite happy about this. She said, I'm a translator.
Yes.
Right? Now, remember, my French is not the best. In fact, it's abysmal, to be honest.
Well, it used to be good conversational French because you worked in a French bar.
But I'm not going to sit here now and tell you how much I can speak. I can get by, put it that way.
Bleu.
Yeah, put it that, c'est terrible. What's it? Yeah. And I've worked in France for a couple of years. So that's, put it this way, I know when I can hear a French person speak, I can kind of pick up what they're saying. And she said to me, I'm a translator. So when these French people who were sitting opposite us said something, I could understand them. I didn't need her to translate.
Yeah.
But she said, hang on a minute. I'll tell you hang on a minute. Let me translate that for you. Because not even asking us, do you speak French? She didn't even know that. She didn't even ask about if I'd worked in France that time and gone to that table.
I'd worked with a Canadian and spoke fluent Canadian.
Yeah. She just overruled the whole table and she said, let me just tell you what they said. And she said, they want to know, can you pass the salt? And things like that, And it was just like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not what she said.
Yeah.
And so I just thought,
And even then she started speaking to them in French and she was struggling on words and she kept looking over to her director friend as if like, what's the word I should be saying next?
Yeah.
And it was just
anyway, so she was all over Bri. And I'm literally, she had her hair pulled down over one shoulder. She's leaning forward on Bri, trying to get his social media accounts out of him, out of his little legs. And no, she was there, wasn't she, Bri? Yeah. And she said, we should keep in contact, right? So anyway, we go to bed that night. Bri has an awful time with his diarrhea.
God almighty.
It was awful. It was the worst I've ever seen. Anyway, so the next day we get up, we go in the car. She doesn't turn up in the breakfast thing in the morning, does she? She wasn't there in the morning. Probably still stayed in bed. So we didn't get to say goodbye, and we was like, so tell Sherelle or whatever her name is. I can't remember what we said her name was. So we said goodbye and thank you so much for making Brian so really ill. And, we really appreciate it.
It wasn't her fault, was it?
No, I know, but, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
And off we drove. Now then, I swear to God, we are not down that road more than, 25 minutes? We get down that road, ping, WhatsApp. It's her. I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodbye to you, Brian. I'd love to chat on a Zoom call. I'm like, just block her. Just get it, delete it.
Carry on driving.
She's a nutter, carry on driving. But Brian's like, oh, and I think you answered her and you said something nice, didn't you? You're like, oh yeah, we're traveling at the moment. An hour later, ping, I just want you to know that I've also done nude modelling.
Yeah.
It's just,
Hello.
Bri,
What?
telling you that?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, but because that's what she did. She did nude. It sounded like
And she said-
nude modelling for artists and photographers.
Which is lovely.
It is.
It's very arty and very lovely.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, Bri, is why would she tell you that?
Because she wanted to send pictures at 9 o'clock in the morning. While I'm driving.
With your smelly bum.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but they don't know these women, do they?
They
And this
don't,
is the
no.
thing. Be careful if you're a man-eater, because you don't really know what's going on to the man you're sending messages
That's
to.
it. You don't know what's happening that night. That was that romantic night.
So that is the Paris story, people.
Yeah,
there you go. And so what happened was we just kept keeping it short, and she was a bit of a
Well,
hounder.
she actually figured out actually who you were. She realised you had a podcast, YouTube stuff. So she wanted to connect to, I don't know, do some nude modelling on the YouTube maybe.
Well, do you know what? It would have been absolutely... I don't want to come across as being a little jealous little old hag. It wasn't that. It was just there's a way of doing it. There's a way of connecting with people.
Yeah.
And when you're with a husband and wife and you're, you know,
I know.
you know what it's like.
Well, that's it. I mean,
You don't just go zoom straight for the husband
No.
and ignore the wife and just be like, I don't know. I just didn't like the way she was conducting herself.
Well, no. To be honest, she just seemed a little bit out of her depth.
Do you think
know.
she was crazy, Brian?
No, she wasn't crazy, but I think she'd bitten off more than she could chew, and she was on a countdown for 90 days before her visa ran out. Like, you know, she had a friend in Paris who'd been there for 21 years
Yeah.
without a visa.
I know. Can you imagine
And
that?
you just think, oh, how do you even, where'd you live?
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
But you can get an apartment, but normally you've got to, I don't know, you've got to have a passport or something that you give them, haven't you?
Anyway, so
Anyway.
that's that, and that's our news. So, like I say, before we go, I hope you like that, Madison and Cliff. That's
Yeah, there
the
you go.
Paris story. And if you enjoyed that story, liz@itsadrama.com, please email me and say, or Brian,
Brian@itsadrama.com.
yeah, and just to say what you thought. I mean, you know, we sit here week after week talking into these microphones, doing these podcasts, and it would be really, really nice just to hear from you. Just this is why we do it, because we want to connect with you. We want to hear your story and, you know, just say hello. Even if you just email and just say hello and that's it.
That's it,
That's all you need to say.
Yeah.
We would
No,
really
totally agree.
appreciate that. So, like I say, next week we've got coming up Tessa's podcast and just some really exciting news that we've been planning for a while that we wanted to share with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do that now. I've said that by
No, that's why you say it though, because you that's something you actually Well, I nearly said it then, so I wouldn't say it.
No, well, God, you've done well.
Let's carry on, shall we?
Yeah. So that's it. So until next week, thank you so much for being here. I just want to say a personal thank you as well to everyone that reached out when Bri was struggling.
Yep.
And just to your support that you've given us, and just
It
just
does.
absolutely lovely.
It is.
you know?
It makes you feel very appreciative, or appreciated is what it is. I think. You know, for we spend many hours doing this, and it's just the thing is, I love doing podcasting. It's a great medium, you know, to be able to whisper in your ear like this.
Yeah.
And it just is like, you know, and it's I'm so glad that people love what we do as well.
Yeah.
You know? And it makes you feel proud when someone, you know, says, "Hey, thank you," and really appreciate what you do.
just very
It's just
grateful,
like,
and we are. We
And not only
really
that,
are.
we're here for you as well.
Yeah.
And that's like, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So lovely people. Until next time, I will say goodbye, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. So kia kaha, stay strong, kia u, stay true, and if you want some of those naked shots, email brian@itsadrama.com.
Until
See you
next
soon.
time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. We have absolutely loved your company.
If you enjoyed the show, then head on over to your favourite podcasting app, leave us a review. Obviously, it's got to be the 5. Don't bother if it's going to be 1.
Don't say that.
Yeah, I mean, just stay where you are. If you're not going to give me a nice review, I don't want to know.
You can leave us whatever you want, but let's just say that we prefer the higher the better.
Yes, obviously. Come on now.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, just with someone who needs cheering up or a little bit of laughter or just needs inspiring. Sharing is
Just
caring.
hit the share button. Help us along and help everybody else and, join the club.
Yes. And don't forget, if you would like to be part of my email newsletter, where I will send you a very, very real and honest email every single week, inspiring you, making you laugh, just being part of your life, then head on over to
www.itsadrama.com/newsletter.
Say it again, Bri.
www.itsadrama.com/newsletter.
I will wait for you there. I can't wait to get to know you better.
Should we just do a little bit more?
No, let's go now,
Let's
Bri.
go.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Get the wine out of the fridge and let's go.
I'm gone.
Okay, bye.
See you now. Bye.
Bye.